The moment she stepped back into her father's abandoned workshop, she had no idea her life was about to change forever. What looked like a forgotten, dusty mess held a secret nobody in the family suspected. While her stepmother laughed at her worthless inheritance, her father had left her something far more valuable, something hidden, waiting for the one person who truly understood him. Before we dive in, if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button so you never miss stories that uncover hidden truths and life-changing secrets. Now, let's see what she found. Rain whispered across the valley like a warning. Shadows clung to the edges of the old road, and the wind carried the scent of wet earth and decay. Eliza gripped the steering wheel, heart pounding, as the headlights sliced through the silver mist. She had returned to the place that was hers by law but forsaken by blood, a neglected workshop her father had left her. Every mile brought memories she hadn't dared visit, the echo of her father's laughter, the weight of the family she no longer belonged to. The air inside the car was thick, anticipation pressing against her chest. Tonight, she would walk into silence, into dust and cobwebs, and perhaps into the truth her stepmother had tried to steal from her. The workshop door groaned like an old man in pain as she pushed it open. Dust danced in the narrow shafts of light that cut through cracks in the roof. The familiar scent of oil, rust, and age would hit her first, sharp and bittersweet. Eliza's fingers traced the edges of the cracked workbench, the surface pitted with years of her father's labor. She could almost hear him whistling, teaching her how to balance tools, counting stars from the rooftop as the sun dipped behind the hills. Her step-siblings had scoffed when the will was read, mocking the junkyard she inherited, but she felt an odd pulse of connection. Something beneath the decay waited for her, a secret buried beneath the dust, a promise she had yet to understand. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she swept the floor, each stroke stirring ghosts of her past. Rusted tools, broken lanterns, and faded feed sacks littered the workshop, silent witnesses to neglect. Hours passed, the sky above the valley turning from gray to streaked with weak sunlight. Her hands blistered, but Eliza did not stop. She paused only to laugh softly, a sound swallowed by the high, empty ceiling. "Dad," she whispered, voice trembling but steady. "You really left me a challenge, didn't you?" Her gaze fell on a warped beam carved with initials. RT plus ET, a tiny mark of herself from childhood. Beneath the letters, the wood splintered slightly, as if something had been pried away. Her heart thumped in quiet rhythm with the tension that filled the workshop. A sudden crunch of tires on gravel made her freeze. She peeked through the gap in the wooden wall. Her stepmother and one of her brothers had arrived, gliding across the muddy field in pristine clothes, scanning the land like vultures. They did not come inside. The brother's voice, sharp and disdainful, cut through the morning air. "Mom, really think Dad left her anything worth taking?" Eliza crouched behind a stack of hay bales, breath shallow, anger and humiliation mixing into a cold resolve. The SUV's engine roared away, leaving only the wind rattling the workshop walls. And in that silence, something shifted inside her. No longer the girl who had been mocked and overlooked. She became the keeper of a secret, poised to uncover a truth no one else had anticipated. Her eyes fell on the floorboard near the back corner, slightly raised, uneven. Kneeling, she pressed her boot against it, just enough for it to move. A hollow sound answered beneath, a whisper of what her father had hidden. Eliza lifted the board, revealing a small compartment. Inside lay a brass key wrapped in oilcloth and a yellowed note. The handwriting was unmistakable, familiar, alive. Where the earth meets its mirror, truth waits for its keeper. Her pulse quickened. For the first time since the funeral, her grief felt different. Not empty, but alive, infused with curiosity and purpose. She tucked the key into her pocket, letting the weight of it settle like a heartbeat. Tonight, she would follow her father's final message. Tonight, she would begin a journey that would change everything she thought she knew about her family, her inheritance, and herself. Eliza stared at the brass key in her palm, the metal cold but alive with a strange weight. The note's words burned behind her eyes. Where the earth meets its mirror, truth waits for its keeper. Her mind raced, searching for a clue, a hint buried in her father's eccentric maps and sketches scattered around the workshop. Dust motes swirled in the weak morning light, as if conspiring to guide her. Every instinct screamed that this key was more than a tool. It was a gate, a bridge between memory and revelation. Heart thudding, she stuffed it into her jacket and grabbed her flashlight, knowing instinctively that the first step required venturing beyond familiar walls into the cold, gray mist of the valley. The workshop door groaned behind her as she stepped into the muddy yard. The valley stretched wide, shrouded in fog that blurred the edges of the trees and hills, turning them into ghostly silhouettes. Eliza followed the old path her father had walked countless times, the one winding past the orchard, past the creek, to a grove where the ground dipped and reflected the sky like a dark, trembling mirror. She knelt beside the water, the reflection shimmering and strange, distorted by the morning wind. Her father's words echoed in her mind. The earth its mirror. The key pulsed in her pocket, a heartbeat synchronizing with her own, urging her forward. Her fingers trembled as she tested the ground along the edge of the mirrored water. Hidden beneath moss and roots, a rusted iron hatch pressed against her palm. With effort, she pried it open, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling down into darkness. A musty, earthy scent rose from the opening, mixed with faint hints of her father's workshop, oil, wood, and something indefinably ancient. Flashlight in hand, she descended, each step creaking and whispering secrets she didn't yet understand. Shadows clung to the walls, moving as if alive, reflecting the unease coiled inside her chest. She was no longer in the world she knew. She was in a place suspended between memory and mystery, where the air itself seemed to hold its breath. The staircase opened into a cavern-like room, walls lined with shelves crammed with jars, tools, and books that smelled of age and knowledge. In the center, a pedestal held a small chest, tarnished but intricately carved. Eliza's pulse quickened as she inserted the brass key, the metal sliding smoothly into the lock. With a click that echoed in the cavern, the chest opened to reveal a bundle of letters, old photographs, and a meticulously carved wooden box. Each item whispered fragments of her father's hidden life, a life she had only glimpsed in passing, filled with experiments, discoveries, and warnings. She realized, with a mixture of fear and awe, that her father had left her more than inheritance. He had left her purpose, a mission veiled in riddles and danger. Hands shaking, Eliza lifted a letter, breaking the fragile seal. The words inside were written in her father's familiar hand, meticulous and urgent. Eliza, if you are reading this, then the world is not as it seems. Trust no one but the truth beneath your feet. The answers lie where the past and present collide, but beware, they are not for the faint of heart. Her breath caught. Outside, the fog thickened, wrapping the valley in white silence. She knew, without question, that she had stepped into something far larger than herself, a story her father had prepared for decades. And as she sat there, surrounded by secrets and shadows, the gravity of what she had discovered settled deep in her bones. Eliza's journey had only just begun, and nothing would ever be the same. The night hung heavy over the valley, silver mist curling around the edges of the workshop like a secret waiting to be uncovered. Emma sat on the floorboards, the brass key trembling in her palm as the wind whispered through the broken window panes. Each gust carried the scent of rain-soaked earth and oil-stained wood. Mingling with memories she thought she'd buried alongside her father. Her hands itched to move, to uncover what had been hidden so carefully, but she hesitated. There was something sacred about this moment, an invisible boundary between grief and revelation. She inhaled sharply, steeling herself, and slid the key into the tiny lock she had discovered beneath the warped beam. The click echoed louder than it should, reverberating across the empty space, stirring dust motes into a swirling dance in the flashlight's narrow beam. Her heartbeat thundered as she lifted the trapdoor, revealing a hidden compartment below, faintly smelling of damp earth and old secrets. Kneeling, Emma lowered herself into the small, enclosed chamber beneath the workshop. The walls pressed close, rough wood and packed dirt holding the weight of years of silence. Shelves lined the walls, boxes stacked meticulously, labeled in her father's hand. She traced her fingers over the faded ink, tools, memories, harvest notes, and paused at one box, her name scrawled boldly across the top. Her breath caught. Could it be? With careful hands, she untied the twine and lifted the lid. Inside were folders, photographs, and letters that seemed to hum with significance. Her father's voice, captured on an old recording device, filled the space, crackling with the warmth and firmness she remembered. Emma, if you are hearing this, know that I have always trusted you. What matters most has been waiting here, where the earth meets its mirror. Protect it, and it will protect you. Tears blurred her vision, but she didn't stop. Each letter, each note, revealed the years of planning her father had done to safeguard her. Not just the land, but the life he had built for her to claim when the time was right. Hours passed in a haze of discovery. Emma carefully examined each box, revealing documents showing her as the rightful heir to her father's work, his farms, his workshops, and even the small fleet of vehicles she had once believed were gone forever. But it wasn't the property alone that moved her. It was the thought, the strategy, the trust her father had placed in her. He had known the Step family would overlook her, underestimate her, and he had left everything to her care in this hidden sanctuary. She ran her fingers over an old beam marked with their initials, her childhood handprint faint beside it, and a smile, trembling and small, curved her lips. For the first time since the funeral, grief and resolve merged into something more, purpose. She wasn't just reclaiming what was hers. She was stepping into a legacy that had waited patiently for her. The sun began to rise, spilling light through the cracks in the wooden roof, gilding the dust in gold. Emma climbed out of the hidden chamber, the key still warm in her pocket. Outside, the workshop smelled of hay and earth, familiar and grounding. She paused, letting the morning calm wash over her, listening to the distant call of birds returning to the fields. For a long moment, she let herself feel proud, whole, and fiercely alive. No one had seen the treasure beneath the ordinary layers of her father's life, and that was the point. This inheritance wasn't just wealth or land. It was proof of love, foresight, and faith in her own strength. She ran her hand over the weathered door, feeling the grain under her fingers, and whispered, "You trusted me, Dad. I won't let you down." By midday, the valley had shifted with the sun, shadows retreating from the corners of the workshop, revealing details Emma had overlooked in the gloom of grief. She arranged the papers and objects she had found, mapping them carefully, connecting the clues her father had left. There was a quiet triumph in her methodical work, the kind that whispered of justice. Not the kind that roared in courtrooms or newspapers, but the kind that settled softly in the soul. In that silent, glowing space, Emma realized something else. The laughter and mockery she had endured were powerless now. She had stepped into her father's plan, the one he had hidden beneath the dust and rot of an abandoned workshop, and emerged stronger, wiser, and undeniably rightful in her inheritance. Every scrap of evidence, every hidden ledger, bore witness to her father's love and his unerring foresight. As twilight approached, Emma stood on the threshold of the workshop, the golden light spilling across her face. She looked back at the hidden compartment one last time, the memory of its discovery warming her chest like a small fire. The valley beyond shimmered, alive with possibility, and the weight of her father's trust settled firmly on her shoulders, not as a burden, but as a gift. She knew the Step family would never understand, and it didn't matter. What mattered was the quiet victory, the whispered assurance that love outlives doubt, and that what is meant for you cannot be stolen. Emma stepped into the open field, the key in her pocket and the knowledge of her father's intent in her heart. Sunlight kissed the earth, wind played with the tall grass, and for the first time, she felt the world bend to the rhythm of her own destiny. The story of the workshop, once forgotten, was now hers to hold, to protect, and to carry forward. If you believe truth and love always find a way, no matter how deeply they're buried, subscribe for more stories of quiet triumph and hidden legacies.